So I'd like to start by giving a quick overview of the area. This is a map of the north of Shrewsbury showing the battlefield area. On the eastern side we have the A49 bypass, which is the current development boundary. And then we have Battlefield Road and Whitchurch Road on the west and Sunderland Road to the south. And these make up a triangle of major roads in the area. To the west we've got the Shrewsbury to Crewe railway line, which I mentioned because it's something of a barrier to movement across the area. There's only 3 crossing points in Battlefield. There's the Battlefield Link Road in the north. In the middle we've got the Halscott level crossing, and in the south there's a foot and cycle bridge over the railway just behind Windermere Road. It's a gravel track leading up to it. It's not in very good condition, but it is there and it is usable. And then across that we've got Featherbed Lane, which becomes Halscott Lane on the other side of the Halscott Crossroads. And I'm sure we're all aware that there's a very heavy congestion on all of these roads. There's no longer really a rush hour. The rush hour is extended into several hours now, and in fact we can get congestion at almost any time of the day. And it's going to get worse. There are 98 houses currently being built off Battlefield Road. They should be completed later this year. There's an 80-bed care home with planning permission off Shillingston Drive. Hasn't been started yet, but will do at some point. There's a 146-bed hotel currently going through planning next to Sunderland Road. This may yet get refused, but developers have the upper hand, so they most likely will go through. To the south of that, we have 60 more houses allocated in the local plan. There's no planning application gone forward yet, but at some point that will happen. And there's the plans for a new swimming pool off Sunderland Road that will be part of the sports village. Then next to the abattoir we have an area of employment land that has outline planning permission. That will come forward at some point. And then the other side of the railway line there is still quite a large area of open fields which have been allocated as employment land in the local plan. And that will be an extension of the Battlefield Enterprise Park. So all of these developments will add more traffic to the area. Then we come to the Northwest Relief Road. I'm not going to say very much about this other than to point out this map. This is from the transport assessment in the planning application for the road. The roads in red here are projected to have an increase in traffic. The roads in green are projected to have a decrease in traffic. But it's important to note that these increases and decreases are relative to a forecast increase of 17% that's expected by 2038. So to take Battlefield Road, for example, the forecast is an 18% decrease in traffic on Battlefield Road, but that's against the projected 17% increase by 2038. So in other words, it just brings us back to where we are today, which is very heavy congestion. So what's to be done? Well, the first thing is to understand that there's no way we can build our way out of congestion. No country in the world has ever managed to outpace the growth in car traffic that's actually partially generated by building the roads themselves. There is no solution to congestion other than viable alternatives to driving. So we need to shift the focus away from moving cars and more towards moving people. And of course we need to fix the existing roads. We all know how many potholes there are. These are increasingly frequent and very little is being done to actually fix these potholes. We need to invest in alternative modes of transport. And of course we need to cancel the Northwest Relief Road. Monstrous waste of money. So let's look at these alternatives, starting with walking and cycling. In particular what we can do in Battlefield. This is the north of Shrewsbury again, showing all the current cycle paths that we have, and you can see that it's very, very patchy and disjointed. If you want to actually move anywhere through the whole of north of Shrewsbury, or in fact anywhere in Shrewsbury, you're on and off cycle paths all the time. There are no continuous cycle paths that will take you to where you want to go. Now there has actually been a very good body of work done called the Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan, the LCWIP. And it gives a number of proposals for new cycle paths or improving existing cycle paths, and it's actually pretty good. And I'm glad to say that they've adopted a couple of suggestions that I made. In particular, in the centre there's S43F, which is a bridge over the railway line at the back of Morrison's car park. It goes over the railway and comes out in land which is currently with Caterpillar. But Caterpillar are closing, and they may have closed already actually, and I think they'll probably put houses there as well. It would be really good if that bridge could be refurbished and reopened and integrated into that development. And then in the north we've got the S100 route, which starts out at Battlefield Road Shillington Drive Junction, goes along the course of the Battlefield Brook and comes out on Featherbed Lane. This is a really pleasant route. It avoids roads altogether apart from, it crosses one road, which is Alberbury Drive, but it does that right next to a bus stop, which is absolutely perfect. So it's a really, really good route for a cycle path. This is a map that I drew up some years ago showing what I think are the main cycle routes, or what should be the main cycle routes around the area. And you can see the S100 route is included there. I've actually gone much further than the LC Whip in that I've extended it to the west, crossing Battlefield Road, runs next to the abattoir, underneath the railway bridge. Underneath the railway. The railway's on an embankment at that point, so it would be very easy to construct an underpass beneath it. Then it goes through Battlefield Enterprise Park and joins up to an existing cycle path, which takes you underneath the link road and into the Battlefield Heritage Park. So that would give us a continuous cycle path all the way from the Heritage Park, through the Enterprise Park, under the railway, across Battlefield Road, through most of the residential areas to the east, joins up to Featherbed Lane, and then it could continue then easily along Sundawn Road, taking you to the sports centre, the new swimming pool, and the medical centre. So a really, really nice route for a cycle path that avoids cars and traffic for most of its entire length. But there's actually plenty that we can do to just improve walking and cycling infrastructure without any major projects or major spending. It can be done with just small improvements to the everyday life of people who are outside of cars. For example, this is a road crossing, a pedestrian crossing on Whitchurch Road. This chap here has just pressed the beg button to cross the road, and just watch what happens. Well, basically nothing happens because the lights haven't changed, cars are still passing, and he's still waiting, and they're still waiting, and now the lights change. There's actually a 20-second delay on these lights, but why? Why are we punishing pedestrians for wanting to cross the road? It really doesn't make any sense. And there's lots of other things that we can do. There's every single road junction that I've looked at around Shrewsbury has had very similar problems. We seem to be deliberately penalising walkers and cyclists at every opportunity, really. And this could very easily change. I mean, a lot of it is just reprogramming the lights. There are no smart traffic signals anywhere in Shrewsbury. They're all on fixed programs. So I turn attention now to the buses. I'm not going to say very much about buses because if I did, we'd be here all night listing all the improvements that could be made. So I'll just list a few that I think are particularly important. There's plenty of opportunity for improvements to bus routes. So we could have cross-town routes and circular routes. For example, taking in the hospitals. There's the integration of park and ride buses with the regular buses. These are separate services at the moment, and there's no particular reason for that. They could be integrated so that the park and ride takes in a number of other destinations other than just the town centre. And there's a reinstatement of evening and Sunday services. At the moment we're under a kind of curfew. If I want to go into town and for an evening do of some sort, then the last bus back is at 8 o'clock. If I miss that bus, it's a long walk home. It takes about an hour to walk from town to where I live. And as regards infrastructure, I think we need timetables at every stop. At the moment, there are just maybe half of them have got timetables, probably less than half. There should be more and better bus shelters. And we should have the real-time information displays back again. We had them 20 years ago. They worked for a year or two, and then they stopped working, and then, well, they've never worked since. And I think there's plenty of scope for educational initiatives, or what I'm calling educational initiatives. This is really making people aware of what buses are available and where they go, where to get them, how much they cost, how to use them, and so forth. A lot of people new to the area, for example, are not even aware of where the bus stops are. Just an example of the poor infrastructure that we've got at the moment. The image on the left there is a typical bus stop in the Battlefield area. This one's on Whitchurch Road. Compare that to one on the right, which is in York. This is a similar bus stop, but you notice it's nicely painted and it's got a real-time information display on. And this is a typical bus stop also in York, a larger one with shelter and seating. The pole there has got a list of all the routes that are served by that stop. Below that is a map of the routes. Behind we've got a real-time information display, and to the right of that there is a ticket machine so that you can buy tickets before you get on the bus, which of course saves time because then you're not holding the traffic up by when you get on board the bus and have to pay the driver. So what I think we need is a vision for what we think Battlefield could look like in 10 to 20 years' time. And the reason for this is that we want to really avoid fragmentation where little things get changed, but then you find later that these things don't join up. And we've almost made things worse because we haven't thought about it in advance. And we can use that vision then to inform decisions as and when pots of money become available. Because generally we're not going to get big project spending. The chances are it'll just be a little pot of money here and there, and we need to make a decision about what to spend it on. So we need that overall vision to make sure that it actually all joins up at the end of the day. And that vision should be compatible with the Shrewsbury Move strategy. This is actually a very good document. It has lots of good ideas in there, and I think we should support that. It doesn't say very much about Battlefield, but what it does say, I think, is I would support. An example of that is it suggests moving the park and ride further out of town. I think this is a good idea. Its current location is not ideal, but it says absolutely nothing at all about what we do with the old site once the park and ride has been moved. We're left with several acres of tarmac. What do we do with it? I have some ideas. I'm very interested to hear what your ideas are as well. And I'll end by just mentioning the Shrewsbury Moves Festival, which is coming up at the end of March. And in particular, to point out that the first day of that event, one of the speakers is Melissa Bruntlett, who is actually originally Canadian. She moved to the Netherlands some years ago and is now a walking and cycling advocate and very, very knowledgeable about how to improve walking and cycling infrastructure in towns and cities. And with that, I'll wrap up. Thank you very much.